Hi, my name is Dave Johanson and I'm here at Blossom Hill Crafts. I'm going to do a short video for you on triple dipping in glazing pottery. So I've got a bowl here and I've already placed wax resist on the bottom of the bowl to make sure I don't get glaze on the bottom. When we triple dip a glaze, basically that means we're going to use 3 colors on one pot. Now when you think about the 3 colors that you want to use, it's helpful to use glazes from the same family. For example, we have both Chun and Chun Blue. Now that's obviously just 2 colors, not a third color, but you can add a third color in there to make it look nice. But if you use Chun and Chun Blue on the same pot, that's going to work well. Now Ida's White and Beige are made from the same base glaze, so Ida's White and Beige look good together. As well as like Stony Matte, Jade, and Stony Matte Blue. That's a great combination. I also like to think of glazes that contrast each other. A high contrast can look good, or glazes that are really close in color. At any rate, let's talk about how we're going to triple dip a glaze. I'm going to start with the Stony Matte Blue. Now usually when I use 3 colors, I'm going to do Stony Matte Blue, Jade, and Stony Matte. And I always start with the darkest color, and I think of Stony Matte Blue as the darkest color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bowl, and I'm going to dip my bowl in the glaze to the halfway point, and I want to make sure that the glaze comes across the halfway point. I can't miss the middle of the pot. So as always, I'm going to stir my glaze, making sure that the glaze is about the consistency of melted ice cream. If I was to stick my finger in this glaze, it should not look like a glove covering my hand. I should be able to see my cuticle and sort of the wrinkles in my finger. So I'm going to dip the thing in to about the halfway point, pull it out, and give the pot a quick shake so that the dripping stops. And that's all I got to do. And now I just got to give this a second to dry up. And while it dries up, I'm going to move over to my next glaze, which is the Jade. And I'm going to give the Jade a good stir. And remember, I want it to be sort of that ice cream consistency. If I stick my finger in, I want to be able to see the wrinkles in my skin. And I want to be able to see my cuticle, but I shouldn't be able to see my finger. That would be too thin. If it's too thin, come and get me or one of the teachers or Joanne. Now what I'm going to do, once my glaze is dried, is I'm going to turn the pot a quarter turn, and I'm going to dip it in again to the halfway point, okay? So I'm dipping it in to the halfway point, pulling it out and giving it a shake. So let's talk about what just happened, okay? So what I have on my pat now is the Stony Matte Blue and the Jade, and a section that is both Stony Matte Blue and Jade. So really I have 3 colors on my pot right now. I have Stony Matte Blue, Jade, and Stony Matte Blue and Jade. So what I'm going to do now, while this dries, is I'm going to move over to my Stony Matte. And I'm going to give it a good spin. Looking at the consistency looks very good. And it's all stirred up now. I have a feeling that my this paddle is kind of light. It wants to move around in there. So I'm going to give my pot another quarter turn, and I'm going to dip it to the middle point, down and in, 1, 2, pull out like that. And oh no, I made a mistake. I didn't dip in far enough, and I've got a little triangle that I missed. So I'm going to dip it again, but I'm going to go very quickly because I don't want the glaze to get too thick. Past the halfway point and out. Drip it off. So now I have done a triple dip. I've got Stony Matte Blue, Jade, and Stony Matte all on the same pot, which means I'm actually going to have Stony Matte Blue and Jade. I'm going to have Jade and Stony Matte and Stony Matte. Okay? So that's basically a straightforward triple dip on a bowl. Now, I can do another kind of triple dip, and this is called a triple dip wax resist. So what I have done is I have taken my bowl and I already dipped my bowl to the halfway point in stony mat. So what I did with the stony mat was then I went over the stony mat and I covered the stony mat with wax resist, leaving just a little strip. I don't know if you can see this. Leaving just a little strip of the stony mat unwaxed. So I literally took wax resist here and my brush and I just painted that all over the stony mat. Okay? So now I'm going to take and I'm going to turn my pot so that the unglazed portion, all right, is pointing down, and I'm going to dip this into, what do I want to do? I'm going to dip this into the stony mat. So when I dip this pot in, I'm going to dip it so that I'm leaving a strip of unglazed pot right in the middle. So I'm going to just dip it down and leave a strip of unglazed pot and pull it out just like that. So now I have stony mat blue, stony mat, an unglazed strip in the middle, and then I have waxed over the top of the stony mat blue, leaving just a little strip of stony mat blue excuse me, in the middle that has not been covered in wax. So now I'm going to come over to my jade. I'm going to stir my jade. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dip my pot, holding it from the stony mat part. I'm going to dip it over the part of the stony mat blue that I waxed, over the part of the stony mat blue that's not waxed, and a little bit onto the stony mat part. So there's going to be a strip of jade going right down the middle of my pot. Again, I'm going to give my glaze a quick stir. And it goes just like this. And we call it a wax resist because the glaze, the jade that I just put on, did not adhere to the pot where I waxed over the stony mat blue. So I end up with stony mat blue and jade, jade, and stony mat. So that's a triple dip with a wax resist. Now, a wax resist can also be done on a vertical surface. So I have a pot here that is vertical. The first thing I would do is glaze the inside of this pot. I might grab a Dixie cup, and let's say I want the inside to be stony mat. I'd fill a Dixie cup full of stony mat glaze, pour it in, swish it around, dump it out. I'd glaze the inside first. Then I'd glaze the bottom of the pot. Let's say I want the bottom to be stony mat blue. And did you know you can draw on a bisque pot with a marker and the marker will burn right off? So I could glaze stony mat blue to say here, where I've drawn that line. Now I could turn over the top and I could dip the top into the stony mat. So maybe my stony mat would come to here. Now what I'm going to do is on the bottom section right here, I'm going to wax all of this in here. I'm going to wax all of this stony mat blue. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip this pot in the jade, over the stony mat blue, all the way up and slightly over the stony mat on the top, and I'll have a swish of jade right in the middle. Now, of course, I have to get my sponge and wipe off that wax resist, and you really do have to wipe it off very, very well. So that's how you do a triple dip. A triple dip with no wax resist or a triple dip with wax resist. Again, I'm David Johanson, and this is Blossom Hill Crafts. Have a great day. Bye.